What's up, guys? Mr. Dan here, back again for another horror movie review. This week we're taking a look at a little J-horror, a movie called Peony Lantern, or as it's known on the screener disc that my friend Hobbs Horror sent me, The Bride of Hades, okay? Also known in Japanese as Botandoro. And apparently this is based on a classic kabuki story, so this would have been very familiar to any... The story would have been very familiar to any Japanese moviegoers back in the day. So going into it, they would have known it was a ghost story, and you certainly get that from the trailer. I'm going to give you a lot. You're going to get less out of me than you would from watching the trailer. This was actually previously made in 1955 as Kaidan Botandoro. So I'm pretty sure that it was probably even made a few more times beyond that. And if not, it probably influenced many other ghost stories, I would guess. I'm not really an expert. But pretty fascinating stuff. There's sort of the rule sets and everything for the feudal ghost stories are a little bit different than we have over here. This one's very accessible, though. There's not that many characters. Some of the titles they use might not translate exactly over to here, but this one's pretty easy to follow. Okay, you don't have to be a history expert to get what's going on here. But anyway, let me read you the one sentence summary. On the night of the summer Oban festival, Hagiwara Shinzaburo meets a beautiful courtesan named Otsuyu. Not knowing she's a ghost, he becomes infatuated with her. So yeah, he is played by Hagiwara Shinzaburo, who's the protagonist, is played by Kojiro Hongo, who appeared in several Gamera movies. He's got the perfect face for this role. Like really nice guy, very, very honest looking, maybe like too much, too trusting. And he actually lends some money to a guy named Bonzo, who's kind of like the village troublemaker, who's played by Ko Nishimura, one of two actors in here I recognized. And it's because both of them were in a lot of Kurosawa movies. That's the only reason why, because I love Kurosawa, is one of my favorite directors. But this guy Bonzo borrows money from him. And he's the kind of guy that borrows money from you and says, "I promise I won't gamble it away." And then when you shut your door, he tiptoes past your door to the gambling hall and gambles it away. And he drinks, and he's a character. But they don't go in hard for laughs or anything like that. It's a pretty serious film. So yeah, this guy's maybe a little too trusting, and he's a little bit too nice. He's actually a little bit too nice for his own family, because this Oban festival is kind of like, I guess, similar to the Day of the Dead in Mexico. They're kind of honoring their deceased ancestors, and they want to kind of send the recently departed ones into the afterlife on a good note, and they don't want to have them wandering the earth with some unresolved issues. So his family's pressuring him to get married, and they've got an arranged marriage for him, and they're trying to tell him, it's going to please your ancestors, and he basically says, "No, I'm not into it." And by the way, the woman, I don't know what the social status is. I've mentioned the eyebrow thing before. The fake eyebrows they're way up here, kind of creepy. The woman they wanted to marry, and I guess this is maybe because of her social status, she doesn't have the fake eyebrows, but she doesn't have any eyebrows either. And you can see they've applied makeup over her actual eyebrows. So I don't really get the whole eyebrow thing, but I do find it creepy. So he turns them down, and his family's actually also just kind of, because the marriage would have benefited them financially, okay, and I think they're of a higher social status than what they want their son to be involved with, because he, in his spare time, the jerk, he teaches the local children how to read, and his family's like, "Oh, I can't believe that," what a jerk. So yeah, like I guess it's like a somewhat poor village. I think they call most of the people in the village like craftsmen, so their children wouldn't be growing up learning how to read. So he teaches them how to read, and he spends a lot of time with them. For the Oban festival, they all have these lanterns that they set adrift in a river to commemorate their ancestors. And we see that in the beginning, one of them gets stuck, and he loosens it for a little kid, and then looks over and he sees two more lanterns that are stuck in the weeds. So he frees them, and then he turns around, and there's two women behind him, and they're both like, "Oh, thank you very much," and they engage him in a conversation, and it goes on a little while, and it seems like they don't want to let go of the conversation, and he's kind of fixated on one of them, who's rather attractive, and they are played by Miyoko Akazawa as Otsuyu. She was apparently in Lady Snowblood, a long list of credits. And the woman that's with her, I guess I'll use the word chaperone. I think they use a different word, but that's the best I'll describe it. Even though the actresses were about 5 years apart, I think. She's playing like an older chaperone. Mayumi Ogawa. She was in Shin Godzilla and a whole bunch of other movies, and they're both still with us, luckily, thankfully. So then he goes back to his place, his little house. Great setting, though. That the village looks like totally authentic. Looks like, an actual real village of the time. Great setting, great cinematography and scenery. They show up at his house and sort of invite themselves in, and she starts telling the story. And he's like oh, I can't say no, but he's like, wow, this is quite a visit at night, there's manners and formalities that are usually followed. And basically the woman explains that the younger woman was supposed to get married to somebody. It fell through. She was employed as a courtesan at a brothel. But she still maintained her virtue, says the other woman, because she knew the tea ceremony and she played several instruments. So the brothel owner said, you can live here, without servicing the clients in that other way. But the time was up. After the Oban festival, you're on your own. So she's kind of trying to marry her off, and it turns out that they're ghosts. I mean, I'm not really telling anybody anything that they wouldn't know in the beginning of this film. And this guy just kind of gets caught up in it. This guy Bonzo sort of becomes aware of it. He scares easily. He's freaked out. He goes to some of the village elders get involved. One of them is played by Takashi Shimura, who with just like the guy that plays Bonzo, Ko Nishimura. Both of them I recognize from Kurosawa films. So Takashi Shimura was actually in more Kurosawa films than Toshiro Mifune, but he usually in smaller roles. So that all happens like very quickly in the first half hour. And then the interesting thing is, rather than not a film where no one believes him or he becomes an outcast, the village, because he's such a, he's helping all their children, they rally around him and try to help him not be corrupted by these ghosts. And they have prayers for him, and they cloister him away, and they put prayer papers on the I forget what they call them, on the doorway, and he's got to last like 2 days and avoid temptation for 2 days. Well, there's a weak link in the village somewhere, and greed plays a hand, and it involves a cemetery and digging something up in a cemetery. Good cemetery scene or two, creepy, nice and creepy, and this is kind of a tragedy, so you can kind of guess what happens, but the way it happens is pretty cool, and kind of a different type of plot for a ghost story than we usually get over here. So I did appreciate it. It was pretty interesting. The effects are pretty good. I would say the makeup effects, when they show the women looking more like ghosts or almost like skeletons at one point, are okay. Above average to above average. They kind of it almost looks like they painted a skeleton on them at one point. And at one point you actually see some skeletons. There's one kind of jump scare in here, which got me pretty good, I got to tell you, but it's not that kind of movie where they're hitting you over the head with that stuff. The other effects where they sort of glide through the air, those are very good. And yes, I was looking for wires, because sometimes they glide along. They might be on a dolly or something, but then they'll sort of take off vertically slowly. And yeah, I'm always looking for the wires. I didn't see any. And the camera work is good too, because sometimes they stop moving and then the camera will swing around to the other side. And, their delivery is very good and kind of creepy. And they're both actresses really do a good job. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was really good. I wouldn't say for me it was up there with classics like Onibaba and Koroneko, which I believe is a classic. It may not be as well known as Onibaba, but although it's a little more accessible, that film Koroneko has more of an art house feel, I think, and this one is a little more accessible, I think, if you're just in a sort of a mood, like a casual kind of mood for a good ghost story that might be a little different. This is your movie. So it looks like there was some pretty good special features on this disc as well. So once again, thanks to Hobbs Horror for sending this to me. Thanks to MVD for being a great company and sending that to Hobbs. And let me jump in here real quick. And yes, I was editing the video and I noticed this Mario sticker. I forgot my granddaughter stuck this on me. She just puts stickers on you at any given time. So I forgot that was there. So in case you were wondering why Mario was on my Night Watch Zone t-shirt. Anyway, I just wanted to mention Koronenko. I actually made a mistake a while ago and actually ended up with 2 copies of this. And Jason from Horrific Nightmares, JM, and I traded some movies with each other. It was a really good deal. It worked out well for both of us. And he's actually reviewed this for the ABCs of Horror for letter K. So if you're interested in a review of that, go check it out. So more J-horror on the way. What are your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll catch you guys next time.